Good morning, everyone. Go. Hello out there. Everybody's rolling in casually. Good to see you all today. Appreciate you being here in person. Appreciate those of you who are showing up online. My name's Katie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the worship director here at the Grove, and we're just so grateful y'all are with us. We usually start right off the bat with a song. We're going to start a little bit differently with a collective prayer this morning. So it'll be really important for you to access lyrics. So if you're using your phone, use your phone's browser and head to thegrove.today. If you want a physical copy of lyrics in this prayer, they are available over at the welcome table. So I want to give you all one more minute to get settled and get a hold of those. So Jacob, you just want to play a little background music for us, and we'll give people a minute, and then we'll say this prayer together. Okay, when you're ready, pull up a prayer for gathering. And actually, if you are comfortable, I would love for you to rise or stand as you're able while we say this together, and then we'll head into our first song. Let's say this together. God among us, we are grateful for this community and this space. As we gather, we bring our awareness to you. We see your image in the faces that surround us, even and especially in those who are different than us. We hope to feel your presence in the ways we worship and commune with one another. We know that our questions don't separate us from you, but rather draw us deeper. And we believe that the ways you heal and transform us will enable us to venture into the world to offer repair to others as well. May we find peace and belonging here today. Help us be brave enough to bring our whole selves, to welcome each other in our messing, thanks, and to leave a little bit changed, a little bit healed, connected, and inspired than before. We are one life, one breath, one body, we in you and you in us. Amen. This is Echo. When night has fallen, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. An echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating your promises to me. God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. An echo in my soul. All right. We're awake now. Thanks, y'all. You can have a seat.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am proud to say that we did not have any sprinkles, any drizzle during our rehearsal, and we are going to be able to be out here. We're not going to be migrating inside or anything. It's great to have that as an option, but we don't have to worry about that today. It is so good to be with you on this beautiful July Sunday morning. My name is Jeremy. I'm the pastor of the Grove Cottage Grove, and we are a brand new church that exists to grow goodness. So we hope that every interaction that you have with us, whether it's in the drizzle or the sun or out here or in the building or somehow with us in the community during the week, that somehow we are helping to nurture healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm also one of the worship leaders here at the Grove. I'd like to bring everybody's attention to the pamphlets. They're right up at that round desk over there. Right below it, you'll also see some song lyrics. You can grab those song lyrics, or you can look those up on your phone as well through that link right there. But in the pamphlet, if you open it up, there's some information that would, if you could fill that out, give us some information about you, that'd be wonderful. Also, there's some ways you can give to the Grove. You can do it in person, online. We have a Venmo. It's all in the pamphlet. Other things, there is a restroom, but that is inside. Also, there's an unstaffed nursery in there. TV on?
It's on. Yep,
Yeah, it's
live
on.
stream
So-
is going in there.
Live stream is on in the nursery. So if you got littles that want to kind of get inside, feel free. You can still feel part of the service. Because kids are a big part of the Grove here. There is a play area in back. It is unsupervised, so just keep an eye on your kiddos. I know my son likes to run, so you'll see us running. But yeah.
Sometimes in the background.
Yep. If you see a little guy in red, it's okay. It's okay. He's with us. Kids. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adults are welcome to run around as well if you really feel the need to. Also on the back of this or on the link here, we have the announcements for this week or this month or what has really become this summer. The things that we've really been focusing in on. You'll notice that these are the same ones that we've been having since June. There is a new one that is online. I will hit those announcements at the end. If you want that information now, you can click on those images and it will bring you to the information that you need. Otherwise, again, we will hit those at the end because we're not here primarily to talk about logistics and to do announcements. We're here to connect with one another and to connect with God. So one of the ways that we help you to connect with one another and give you the opportunity to chat with one another is a time we call Connection Point. So in just a moment, we will have you stand up, move around a little bit, find someone you don't know or don't know very well, introduce yourself, and then we give you a question prompt to lower the anxiety level just a little bit. And so today's question is about staying cool. It's going to be warm today. It's going to be even warmer the rest of the week. What is one of your go-to ways to stay cool when it is especially hot outside? Do you have that backyard pool that you hop into, even if it's one of those little kid ones? Do you as an adult hop in there? Maybe you do. Cheap light beer. Just like something cold to go down the gullet. Or something else. What are the ways that you like to stay cool on these especially hot days? So again, we'll have you stand up, find somebody near you don't know or don't know very well, share your name, and then your answer to that question. We'll reconvene in just a couple minutes.
All right, y'all can finish up and find your way back to your spots. Speaking of ways to cool down for the summer, can we thank our hospitality team for having the iced coffee for us every Sunday morning? Even when it's 50 degrees, it's still nice to have the iced coffee. Hey, I hope you all feel invited to always approach worship in your own way, like especially when we do music, whether you want to stand or sit or move around or stay still. I hope you know that I might offer some direction from time to time, but really I hope this is an experience that is whatever you need it to be. Sometimes we do stand all together as a way of unifying our voices together as one body, and sometimes it's okay to do something different than what the people around you are doing, because everybody has different physical needs. Some people need to move. Some people just want to be completely still. You might want to close your eyes and just listen. You might want to sing along. Anyways, I hope you all, that's all. I want to create a space where you get what you need out of this experience. And also we have moments where we unify ourselves, but that's my disclaimer for worship. Okay, so as we go into this song, take whatever posture you need to take. This is Cast My Cares. In the middle of the night, when worry finds me, in the middle of a fight, when strength is gone, in the middle of a fire, when fear is closing in, you are my song, and you're my hope when hope is gone. So I will cast my cares on you, the Almighty, and I will cast my cares on you, 'cause you're good. And I will cast my cares on you, 'cause you love me, you love me. Oh, oh, because you love me. Oh, oh, because you love me. In the middle of the night, when worry finds me, in the middle of a fight, when strength is gone, in the middle of a fire, when fear is closing in, you are my song, and you're my hope when hope is gone. I will cast my cares on you, the Almighty, and I will cast my cares on you, 'cause you're good. And I will cast my cares on you, 'cause you love me, you love me.
All right. Today, we get to continue. What was that? You go, girl. Thank you, Owen. That was towards you. Good job, Mom. Thanks for the encouragement. Today, we get to continue our series called Splash. Exploring the depths of God's grace at the bottom of the sea. Today, we get to go to the bottom of the sea. But before we do that, before we jump in, oh goodness, no pun intended. Before we jump into where we left off last week, I want to do a little bit of resetting so we can either remember where we're at or get caught up to where we're at with a couple things. First of all, this whole series is based on the story of a guy named Jonah and a book that bears his name. So we've been following this story of Jonah and reading through this book. It's a short book, and somehow we figured out a way to stretch it out across 5 weeks. A couple things to know and remember as we jump into this is that this book is not necessarily meant to be read literally. It actually gives us lots of clues that it's not supposed to be read that way, that we're not supposed to read this as a story that happened to a particular person at a particular time, but instead is a story that we are supposed to be wrapped up in, that we are maybe even supposed to see ourselves in, not something that happened, but something that can happen and often does happen to us. This is not a story of a hero, this is a story of an anti-hero, and sometimes we play that role of anti-hero too. And so the point of the story is to get caught up in it and to maybe see ourselves within it. So the way that this story goes, as we talked about the last couple weeks, this is a story of a man named Jonah. Jonah was a prophet, which means this was a person who was sent by God to deliver a message. So the book opens with Jonah being told, Jonah, get up, go to this city of Nineveh, to your enemies, and give them this message from me. And Jonah gets up, but rather than going to Nineveh, he turns heel and goes the opposite way. And rather than going up, he goes down. He's running away from God. He's running away from having to do this thing that is going to change the way that he thinks and change the way that he lives. Ain't no way he is going to go to his enemies and preach the grace of God to them. The grace of God is just for God's people, which happen to be Jonah's people. And so he goes the opposite way. He hops on a boat. He goes down into the boat to try to hide from God. Last week we heard that did not go very well. And suddenly this big storm comes up to the point where this boat that he is on finds itself threatening to tear itself apart. This is how bad the storm is. And in that moment when this storm is raging, when the boat is about to tear itself apart, there are these pagan sailors, which as I was writing it this week, I'm like, that's a fantastic band name. If anybody has a band, it is not currently taken. I Googled it. The pagan sailors. Okay? So the pagan sailors, Jonah is trying to run away from having to preach God's grace to sailors, to pagans, and he finds himself on this boat with pagan sailors, and they start casting blame. They try to figure out what's going on. They then go down and get Jonah, bring him up, and Jonah starts casting blame on himself. This is my fault, and he casts blame on God. This is God punishing me, and so he offers to be thrown over deck. And it seems like this is a pretty selfless move, that he's trying to save the sailors by going over deck. And yet what it is it's his attempt to continue to run away from God. He's already gone down in the boat. That hasn't worked to get away from God. So he's willing to go down into the ocean to get away from God, essentially commit suicide in order to get out of this thing that he has been called to do. The sailors go along with it. They throw him overboard. As they do that, the storm subsides. They start praising God. They recognize God's grace in that moment, and these pagans are somehow converted. The thing, again, that Jonah was trying to not do, and Jonah hits the water, and that is where we pick up the story in Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. This is a quick 11 verses. The Lord sent a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the stomach of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the stomach of the fish and said, I called out to the Lord from my distress, and he answered me. From the belly of Sheol I cried out for help, and you heard my prayer. You threw me into the deep waters, into the middle of the sea. The ocean current engulfed me. All the mighty waves you sent swept over me. I thought I had been banished from your sight, that I would never again see your holy temple. Water engulfed me to my neck. The deep ocean surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. I went down to the very bottoms of the mountains. The gates of the netherworld barred me in forever. But you brought me up from the pit, O Lord, my God. When my life was ebbing away, I called out to the Lord, and my prayer came to your holy temple. Those who worship worthless idols forfeit the mercy that could be theirs. But as for me, I promise to offer a sacrifice to you with a public declaration of praise. I will surely do what I have promised. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Then the Lord commanded the fish, and it disgorged Jonah on dry land. I mentioned the first week of this series that Jonah has the unfortunate quality that many people know this story, or at least know portions of this story, or at least have heard pieces of this story. It's possible that you have no religious history whatsoever, no church history, no deep understanding in the Bible, and yet you may have. It's likely that you've heard parts of this story, and if you have heard parts of Jonah's story, it's likely that you have heard parts of this story, of this part of this story, where Jonah gets swallowed up. Well, the question is, what does he get swallowed by, and what is the purpose of him getting swallowed? I have the unfortunate privilege of being a pastor on social media that is often the recipient of targeted advertising. And I don't know if you've been on social media much, especially Facebook and targeted advertising. They're really good at finding like this one thing that you've shown interest in and then like throwing all of the ads at you. Well, if they know you're a pastor, they assume certain things about you. They assume that you're quite conservative, that you're interested in churchy or Christian type of things. And so I get sent some of the weirdest ads. One of them that I've been getting recently, because they also know that I'm a runner, is this virtual challenge where you can run in the footsteps of Jesus and lose weight while you're doing it. And then I'd get a medal for it. There's a lot, like I could break that down, all of the things that are wrong with that. But that's just one example. However, I got served a new one for the first time this past week, and it's this t-shirt company that sells just Christian t-shirts, and they're like Bible-based t-shirts, and they try to make them look like the graphic t-shirts that you might see at Target or any other retailer, but they're like all Bible-based. They've got like very Christian type of insider language to them, and they say that the purpose of them selling these t-shirts is to share your Christian identity and help you to share your faith. Okay, I guess that's a thing that you can do with a t-shirt. I was curious. I did not click on the ad because I knew if I clicked on that ad, I would get served it over and over and over again. But I saw the name of the company, and I Googled the company because I was like, cringe. I was looking for the cringe. Do you ever do that sometimes? So I'm looking for some of the cringe. So I went to the website and looked at all their different t-shirts, and of course they've got lots of cringeworthy t-shirts. But guess what? They have a Jonah shirt. And it is called Jonah and the Whales. Okay? So they make it look like a concert t-shirt. I wish I could show it to you. Maybe you can Google it. It looks like a concert t-shirt. It's got two guitars that are crossed. It's got like a drum set in the background. And then, of course, it's got a big whale on it, and it says Jonah and the Whales. And then on the top, like a concert t-shirt, it says, coming to Nineveh. And then it's got like a little stamp over it that says postponed. So that's what it looks like. And then here's what the description for this product is. The grunge-inspired tea celebrates the true story of Jonah and is the perfect way to express your faith with a touch of rock and roll attitude. I've got a lot of questions. How does this celebrate the true story of Jonah? How does it do it with a rock and roll attitude? And my biggest question is, how does it do that when it gets one of the major details about the true story wrong? There's no whale in this story, folks. It is a giant fish. If you're going to take it literally, at least get the details right. Okay? But as I mentioned before, we're not necessarily supposed to take this literally. We're talking about big fish here, big fish that can swallow someone whole and keep them alive for 3+ days. Again, this is like a funny or infuriating thing, but it's another reminder of sometimes knowing a story well is actually a liability because you miss some of the important details that you might otherwise see. So let's go back to this story that I just read from where Jonah hits the water. This section, it's only 11 verses, but it's broken up into 3 different sections, okay? So the first section is only 2 verses, and it is describing Jonah getting swallowed by this big fish. Then there's this second section, which is several verses long, which is Jonah's prayer once he's inside the fish, and he's describing the experience that he just had after jumping into the water. And then it ends with a single verse that says that Jonah was, again, it comes back to the fish and the experience of the fish, and the fish disgorging him. So it's these 3 different sections. That first section where it says Jonah was swallowed by a giant fish and he was in there for 3 days and 3 nights. It's really easy to read that, and I kind of came to the understanding growing up hearing this story that Jonah was immediately swallowed. As soon as he hit the water, he was swallowed, and this was like God's punishment for him jumping off. But in the prayer that follows, when Jonah is explaining his actual experience of what happens, that's not what happens. Jonah describes going to the bottom of the sea. In ancient cosmology, in the ancient Near East, the idea was the world was not that it was round. It was actually a dome, and there were waters above. That was the sky, and there were waters below. And up was heaven, and down was not heaven. This place called Sheol. So Jonah does not go into the water and then immediately gets swallowed by this fish. Jonah goes into the water, and he sinks, and he sinks, and he sinks, and he goes all the way down to hell. His experience, his prayer, where he's describing his experience, is not being swallowed up. His experience that he's describing in his prayer is going through hell. He talks about being swallowed. He does not talk about being swallowed by a fish. He talks about being swallowed by Sheol, which is translated often hell. He talks about being engulfed, like being gobbled up. He does not talk about being gobbled up by a fish. He talks about being gobbled up by the ocean, by the waves, by the seaweed, and brought down all the way to hell. He does not hit rock bottom. He breaks through rock bottom. He is at the base of the mountains where there is no turning back. There is no coming back. Jonah it requires him to go all the way to the depths of the sea. It requires Jonah to go through hell in order to finally figure out that he needs help and that he's willing to do what is necessary to get that help. And it's finally, once he reaches the absolute bottom, breaking through rock bottom, where he cries out to God, he says, "Rescue me." And God is there listening with a fish that is waiting there to rescue him. There is this interesting detail that gets lost in translation. The original story would have been written in Hebrew, which is not English. The story that we're reading is English, right? And so as they translate it from one language to another, there's some details that kind of get lost. One of these details gets lost in the description of the fish. In the original language, the fish in the first verse gets gendered as a male. By the second verse, after it swallows him up, the fish gets gendered as a female. There's all sorts of debate about why that is. Some people think that the people who copied the story just screwed up. At some point in their copying, they were supposed to make it consistent. It was supposed to be a male at all those times, and they just screwed up, and it got handed down to us because it literally got lost in translation. There's other commentators who say actually there was two fish, and there was one fish that first swallowed him, and then it spit him out into the mouth of a female fish. I think that's working a little bit overtime, maybe getting too cute by half. But there are other people, and I tend to agree with this, who think that change is important because of what it symbolizes, what the fish symbolizes, and why the fish was there. The fish was not there as punishment. This fish, a female fish, Jonah spends this time in this female fish and then is disgorged, is thrown up, is rebirthed, is given new life where there was no life before. God is one who sends help in your moment of dire need, will go all the way to hell to provide you with the unbelievable, the unending, the undeserved love that is available to all of us, will go all the way to hell in order to give us that experience of new life and new birth and rebirth, even if it comes through the belly of a fish. This series that we've been going through is all about grace. The title is Splash, the depths of God's grace at the bottom of the sea. And we defined God's grace as that unending, undeserved, unbelievable love that God has for us, for all of us. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about the very beginning of the book where God has this calling out to Jonah. And we talked about this idea of prevenient grace. This is the experience of grace, of God being out in front of us and inviting us to come forward. It's almost like God is before us on a path and turning around and saying, "You're doing great, buddy. Keep on moving. There's even better things out in front of you. Keep on moving. Keep coming this direction." There's different experiences of grace, though, and that's not the experience that Jonah has in this part of the story. This is what is known, at least in our tradition, as justifying grace. This is the experience of grace where we acknowledge that we have this need that is beyond ourselves, that we have to reach out because we can't do it on our own. If we're going to continue that metaphor of being on a trail, it's like God being up on this ledge just in front of us, and we recognize that we can't get up there on our own, and it is God's reaching out to us and our reaching out to God in order that we can be pulled up from the depths, in order that we can see not only where we've come from, but we can see the beautiful thing that is out in front of us. This is that justifying grace where we recognize where we've come from, our need now, and what we can do going forward. Here at the Grove, we talk about this type of grace as nurturing, healing, wholeness, and beauty. This is the idea that personal transformation is necessary and also possible, that we find ourselves just as human beings going through the messiness of life, and we can't do it on our own. And so we need and are able to experience this personal transformation, this nurturing, healing, and wholeness in order to do better going forward. And yet we also recognize that it doesn't just end here, that it's got to go somewhere from here. The story of Jonah is such that there is this prevenient grace, this calling out in front of him. He initially runs away from it as much as he can, dives to the depths of the sea to get away from it, and then reaches out. That is that experience of justifying grace. And the hope is that having experienced that life change, that things are going to be perfect from here on out, that he will have it all figured out. In the next couple weeks, we're going to see that that's not the case. He's going to screw up. That is what it means to be human. And so as we go forward, my hope is that we not only understand those first two pieces of grace, but we use it as an opportunity to say, this is an experience that we can know and look forward to, that we can reach out to God, acknowledging our need for God, acknowledging our need for other people, that unending, undeserved, unbelievable love of God. And we can prepare for when we screw up, knowing that it is all part of the human experience and that we can do that together. So my hope, my prayer for us is that we can lean into that. We can lean into that undeserved, unending, unbelievable love of God. And that we can do so knowing that we can reach up, knowing that we can reach out, knowing that it might come through miraculous means, knowing that it might come through our friends or our family or our neighbors, knowing that it might even come from the belly of a fish. So may that be so.
Speaking of messiness. No, I just meant we all, not just you. Sorry. We all sing with us beautiful things. All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all.
I'm getting hot already. So we're going to keep this short and sweet, and we're going to get out of here. Sound good? Okay. It was a pleasure to be with you today, as always. A couple quick announcements before we go. We're going to be out of here quick, Roy, I promise. 2 quick announcements. So the first one, no surprise, we've been talking about it all summer. Our property improvement campaign, we are trying to raise money for things that are outside of the bounds of our normal operating budget. The thing primarily that we're working on replacing is our projector inside the worship center. If you were here last week, you got another look on that, and it's not great, and so we would love the opportunity to be able to replace that before we move back inside in the fall. We are 2/3 of the way there. So if you are interested in donating or even learning more about what it is that we're taking on and how you might go about supporting us in that, you can click on that link or scan that QR code on the back of your worship folder. The other thing, which is not on the worship folder but is online, is our Get Involved page. Getting involved is one of the best ways to get to know other people, but also to use your gifts and passions to help support the church as a whole. We're not that far off from fall. Boo? Yay? A little bit of both. And what that means is we got a lot of reworking and re-energizing all of our ministry teams in order to pull things off for the fall. If you are not in a position already where you are using your gifts and passions, we would love to help you find a position, either one that we already have, or to create a position that would fit with those gifts and passions that you have. So if you are interested in learning more about that, you can go to that Get Involved page, see all of the positions that we have listed, or if you're wanting to learn more about what might be possible, there's a form for you to be able to fill out to learn more about that and to connect with us and to have a conversation about it. I believe that's it. So with that, I will have you rise as you're able and extend your hands to receive this blessing. This is a 4-letter word that, the kids can hear it, used in the right context. If you're going through hell, keep on going. Whatever depths we find ourselves in today, may we know that the depths of God's unending, undeserved, unbelievable love for us is even deeper. May we reach up and reach out, trusting that God knows and hears and cares, and guess what? So do we. May that be so.